for entertainment purposes only. And if you want true legal advice, contact your own lawyer.
In November of this past year, a judge in Oklahoma directed Johnson & Johnson to pay the state of Oklahoma, ready for this, $465 million to address the opioid crisis. So in other words, the judge hammered Johnson & Johnson, I'm sure this is going up on appeal, and said pay $465 million because of the opioid crisis in that state, and that state, because that state had to cover so many, medical issues because of it, et cetera, et cetera. Now, jumping on the back of that, you got the state of Washington is now suing Johnson & Johnson, saying the same thing, that though their drugs were effective for they're effective for treating pain, but they're trying to claim that they misrepresented some of the advertising or went out and pushed this drug on the people of the state of Washington.
And they misrepresented the addiction to the drug. That's really the specific part that was misrepresented, because they said there was very little risk of addiction to this drug.
Well, so I'm going to hop on the side of the defense here for Johnson & Johnson. And this is what I was at first. These products, these opioids, they don't sell them in the stores directly to the public. You cannot buy them without a prescription. Now, I've had 2 back surgeries in the last 10 years, and I have been prescribed opioids to deal with the pain. Thank heaven. It was excruciating. And they helped out a lot to help me get through that period. And guess what? The risk of addiction was and this goes back to 2010. The risk of addiction was thoroughly explained to me by my treating physician. The risk of addiction was thoroughly explained to me by the pharmacist when I picked up the prescription. And I had to have it refilled multiple times, and it was explained to me every time I picked it up. So to say that in advertising, that the advertising would supersede what was told people by their physicians, I mean, quite frankly, I don't think I can remember ever seeing an ad in print or on television for opioid medication. I don't remember ever seeing one. The only time I've ever heard about it is from my physician, and they explained everything to me.
And now we're going to talk about why this Washington State case is limited to the years 1997 to 2011, because during that specific time frame, the opioids were being marketed to the doctors to prescribe them, and the doctors were being told this is a new type of drug that's going to absolutely take care of and manage pain without any risk of addiction. And it wasn't until 2011 that it started to become out very popular that this was an addictive drug. We're talking about OxyContin in specific.
Yes.
And that's when things started to turn around, and they started to understand this huge thing. But before that, they didn't know. By they, I mean the doctors were actually told something other than.
Well, that was primarily because they were told that you had a specific length of time between doses, which would have kept the risk of addiction down. But it came to find out that if they thought this was a 10-hour dose of an OxyContin pill, for example, it didn't last 10 hours. So people took more, and then that started feeding the addiction.
Those are the allegations. Those are allegations.
That's right.
Only.
And the allegations also were that the drug maker did not stop and think about when somebody would cut it up. Because then what happened is these pills started getting cut up, and then it took away this time release thing, and it started becoming immediate.
Exactly.
And I should also say the OxyContin, now look, opioids have been a scheduled narcotic in both whatever state you're in, there's a schedule, and on the federal level. They have been a scheduled controlled substance subject to illegal possession, and if you don't have a prescription, for decades. I mean, it's been that way for so long. However, OxyContin was created and marketed in 1996. And so that's why you would have the 97. It was in different forms, but still, to any physician, what are the active, just ask the question, what are the active ingredients in this? Oh, it's an opioid base. Okay. If it's opioid based, if it's opium based, then there's going to be an addictive component to it. And You know, I just
And why
we'll see.
Johnson & Johnson? They're the bigger. They have the majority apparently. Maybe I
They
should double-
supply the components to make the
Got it.
actual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But I think there's other companies that do also, but I don't. I think I remember we talked about it. But here's what's interesting: the Attorney General's office of the state of Washington, Mr. Ferguson, I believe is his name. Is that right? It's Ferguson.
Yes.
He said the following, and this is interesting: in 2011, at the peak of sales, more than 112 million daily doses of opioids were dispensed. 112 million a day.
Which far exceeded the public. That was like 2 or 3
Yeah.
times the amount of people in the state.
That's it.
Go to the website, radiolawtalk.com. That's radiolawtalk.com.